we know that sleep is connected to how we feel and how much we can tolerate, I'm now learning that when we're sleep deprived, our emotional centers, the parts of our brain that are in charge of how we feel, how we react, and how much we can handle the stress, the triggers, we are 60% more reactive when we are sleep deprived. But 60%, that is so much. And so that means that we're going to be more easily triggered. We're going to be crankier. We're going to be more reactive, and we're not going to be ourselves. And it's going to land us in more unexpected, unplanned, and preventable arguments.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life in marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the critical role that sleep has in our communication and how sleep can really mess up conflict and how we do it and land us in so many unnecessary arguments that can be avoided. Okay. Now, this is a podcast for moms. We are all well aware of how sleep is such a treasure for us. And it's a treasure that we cannot predict if we're going to get, especially if you have young kids. Thankfully, it does get better, though I will say that I still get the random wake-ups at night, whether it's my 4-year-old deciding that she's in a phase where she doesn't want to sleep in her bed, or she kicks her covers off and needs someone to cover her back up, or it's my 8-year-old who's like, I had a nightmare, I need a hug, or maybe it's just me and my hormones. I don't know about you, but certain phases of my menstrual cycle means having a really difficult time falling asleep or staying asleep. So it is just a mixed bag. Isn't that fun, right? And this really messes up our communication because when we don't have sleep, which is such an essential thing for us to have, to feel like ourselves, to feel like we can manage things within us, our feelings, our thoughts. And even looking back, my youngest is 4 now, almost 5. And looking back when I first had, it was my stepson and then it was my son. And when they were really little, my husband and I fought a lot during that phase of team no sleep. Do people say that anymore? I don't even know. I'm like out of the baby phase. But anyway, we argued a lot. And it was because our sleep was so unpredictable and unreliable. We had no idea how that was going to go. Are we going to get a full night? Are we not going to get a full night? We have no idea, right? And at the time, my now 8.5-year-old sucked at sleep, okay? Like truly sucked. And I was just on edge all of the time. Understandably so, right? But I had no idea why. I just was. And that led to a lot of arguments. And although we know that sleep is connected to how we feel and how much we can tolerate, I'm now learning that when we're sleep deprived, our emotional centers, like the parts of our brain that are in charge of how we feel and how we react and how much we can handle the stress, the triggers, we are 60% more reactive when we are sleep deprived, when we don't have a full night's rest, whatever that means for you. Some of us are okay with 7 hours. Some of us need 10, right? But 60%, that is so much, right? And so that means that we're going to be more easily triggered. We're going to be crankier. We're going to be more reactive, and we're not going to be ourselves. And it's going to land us in more unexpected, unplanned, and preventable arguments. And so I wanted to share some things with you to A, help you navigate through that, and B, raise your awareness of how much this is impacting you so that you can take that information and make more intentional choices that serve your marriage instead of letting sleep get the best of your marriage. Okay. So we all know sleep is important, right? Sleep affects our health, sleep affects our cognitive function. And I'm going to focus on the cognitive part. When you think about the difference between days that you get a lot of sleep and the days that you don't get a lot of sleep, the days that you aren't getting enough sleep, you're probably snapping a lot easier. You're less patient. You're more serious. You're that version of yourself that you don't enjoy very much. In fact, probably no one in your family enjoys that version of you very much, right? But then when you do get enough sleep, you're so patient, you're so understanding, you're more flexible, your capacity to handle stress is higher. And the thing with conflict is that in order for us to navigate that smoothly, we need effective communication. But we cannot have effective communication if we're already starting at a negative capacity, right? Because you can have all the communication tools in the world. Shoot, even me as a marriage coach, I study this, I practice it, I coach people on it. Even with all the effective communication tools at my fingertips, even having that muscle memory of choosing those healthier habits and having so many conversations under my belt that have gone right. When I am not feeling myself because of poor sleep or because of high stress, I don't reach for those tools. And so you can have all the tools in the world, but if you aren't taking care of yourself and you're not getting the right amount of sleep, it doesn't even matter because you will not have the control and the regulation to reach for those skills. You're going to be more reactive. You're going to be more emotional, and you're going to dip into past habits because those past habits of yours, let's call them unhealthy, are driven by your ego. And your ego, that's who comes out to play when you're not regulated. That's who comes out to play when you're not well rested. Okay. Now, if you're hearing me and you're like, yes, I know how important sleep is, but I have young kids and it's not my choice. I get it. I see you. Okay. And I'm not going to leave you hanging. There are some things that you can do. So for moms with young kids or unpredictable sleep, you've got to start controlling what you can. Can you control when they wake up? You wish, right? I wish that for you. But you can control what time you put them to bed, the routine that you set up to help set your baby up for success, for a good sleep. You can reach out for support. You can have conversations with your husband about taking turns doing the wake ups. Just because you're the mom doesn't mean that you are on nighttime duty. Even if you are nursing, you can have your husband bring the baby to you. I know I've definitely nursed my kid while I was sleeping or half asleep. It's better than nothing, right? Or maybe you're pumping and you're doing both, breastfeeding and pumping. Have your husband take turns waking up with the baby. Or maybe he just has nighttime duty, period. Or maybe you guys take blocks of time. You take the first shift, he takes the second, or vice versa. So if the baby wakes up, then okay. And you can always change it up for what works. It could be every other day. It could be shifts. You can ask for family support. If your parents are around or his parents or your siblings are around, hey, can you come over so I can take a nap? Right? On the weekends when my kids were younger, my husband and I used to take turns on who would be able to sleep in on the weekend. So like I would have Sundays and he would have Saturdays. Any little bit helps. So yeah, they say sleep with the baby sleeps, but we all know the truth and how difficult that is. But I still want you to prioritize finding those pockets of time where you can rest, whether that's doing something less strenuous and you're just resting but not sleeping, that helps. Maybe that means lightening your load, lowering your standards for yourself as you are navigating this postpartum life of having a new baby, asking for help whenever people offer. Because I know people have offered to go grocery shopping for me or dropping off food or coming by to take the older kids or coming by to hang out with the babies so that I can do whatever I need to do, go shower or take a nap or whatever else. Take them up on it. And don't be afraid to let your husband know, hey, what we're doing right now isn't working. Can we figure out a different way? Because I'm struggling. And I'm noticing that it's taking a toll on our marriage. We're fighting a lot more. And I'm getting burned out and I don't want to fight anymore. Right? I just want this to change. And then if you find yourself having more conflict with your spouse, I want you to remember how much conflict and your communication is impacted by sleep. Because the more you are conscious of that, the more you can blame that for how you are responding to the triggers and be more aware of, hey, maybe this is why I'm actually having a really hard time with this. Like I know right now I'm getting my period soon and I'm just more sensitive right now. I was just watching a show, Sweet Magnolias, and I just started to cry. I'm like, this isn't even an emotional scene and I'm tearing up, which means that that's a sign that I'm about to get my period, which means that I need to go warn my husband because I'm going to be more sensitive. And more awareness is good. I even learned about this technique that Mel Robbins shared, where you let your partner know where you're at if you're not feeling your best and you can't handle the normal day-to-day stuff. You say, hey, I'm at like a 10% right now. So that way he knows, oh, okay, I shouldn't joke with her. I need to be careful of how I say things to her. And maybe if he has a larger capacity and he's feeling more normal, he'll take on more because it's all about helping each other out. When the other person's not feeling so great, one person steps in and it goes back and forth, right? It's a give and take. And so having that awareness of how we're doing is going to be key when it comes to communication, because it's going to help bring that awareness of, hey, I'm not feeling myself. And that's probably why this is coming out the way it is, or this is probably why it's impacting me the way that it is. And so what can I do to practice more mindfulness? Do I need to let him know, like, hey, I'm really tired right now and I'm probably going to say something I'm going to regret because I'm feeling really angry right now and I don't want to argue. And you take yourself out of the equation to calm down so that you're not arguing in the heat of the moment. Don't allow that heightened 60% to dictate how your marriage is going to go. Build that awareness of yourself of, okay, oh, everything is annoying to me right now. So I need to let my husband know that I'm not feeling so great. So he knows, tread lightly. And then you know, okay, if I get annoyed, I'm just going to have to give myself a breather and not commit to it. Not commit to, oh, that is annoying and I'm going to tell him. But rather give yourself time. Take a deep breath. Go outside, get some sun, talk to a friend, go vent somewhere else. Get it off your chest. And then maybe a friend can offer a more balanced perspective on what's happening. Or you can go out for a run. You can go for a walk. You could scream into a pillow. Do something to give yourself that space and time to process, is this worth bringing up? Is this a fight I want to have? Or is this just a fight because I'm not myself right now and everything feels like a fire drill? Another thing you can do is simplify your routines. Can you create a routine that is just minimalist? I've recommended this to my clients who often feel burnt out. Can you have two different kinds of routines? A minimalist routine and a regular routine where you're like, oh, this routine I do when I'm feeling myself because I have the energy to do all these things and still have the energy to play with my kids and connect with my husband. But on the days that you feel shitty, lean on that minimalist routine or no energy routine, whatever you want to call it, where you're like, nope, today is just survival. Kids are eating frozen nuggets and we're going to do whatever it takes to get through this day. And I'm going to let my husband know in case he has more energy to chip in, and I'm going to bow out, right? Maybe he picks up dishes for you so that you can get to bed earlier and you can do what you need to do to make sure that the next day is better for you. Because when you're having a better day, everyone's having a better day, right? There's no sense in continuing to push yourself into the ground. Leverage your partnership to help yourself get back to where you can be, which is feeling yourself, which is doing the things that you normally do and still having the capacity to be present with your family. All that to say, sleep is really important, and I get that sometimes we're not in control of how much sleep we get, but that's where you have to lean on what can I control about this situation. If I can't control how much sleep I get, can I ask for help? Can I simplify what I expect of myself? Can I change my standards in this season of life? Okay, it's not just sleep that affects your communication. It's also if you're sleep deprived and you have a stressful routine where you're doing way too much. And when I say way too much, that is subjective. What I think is way too much might be okay for you. So you have to be really honest about what your capacity is. And that can change over time, right? Hormones change, your responsibilities change. Maybe your kids have special needs. There's so many variables. So only you can decide what that means. But whatever you decide, make sure you're being really honest with yourself and taking care of yourself. Go take care of yourself, get support, prioritize your health, your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, and get sleep wherever you can. And do whatever you can to help yourself feel like yourself so that it doesn't negatively impact your marriage unnecessarily. Okay? If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share it, because I know sleep is a really big thing that negatively impacts marriages after kids. And let me know how this lands for you. Let me know if you try any of these things and how it works out for you. And if you love the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify. I would be so grateful. I love reading the reviews and getting that love from you. And that's it. I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.